Today's lesson is the review for your quiz 4-1. The first question on the quiz is going to ask you to fill out some questions about a graph. Um, one of the questions that you will be asked these 4 questions, not maybe in this order, but you will be asked these 4 questions. So one of the questions is, does the parabola open upward or downward? Just go ahead and take a look at your parabola. You're going to want to find the 2 ends and put arrows. If they're pointing up, you're going to put upward. If they're pointing down, you're going to put downward. It's that simple. There we go. So this one is opening upward because it does look like the letter U. To find the vertex, remember this is the vertex right here, right down here per lesson 4-1. This is my vertex, so all I need is the x and the y coordinates of that position. You're just going to simply go up to find the x value and go over to find the y value. It looks like it is 2, -8. Make sure you do write it as an ordered pair. I'm just filling in blanks here. Another question that you're going to be asked is to find the axis of symmetry. Once you have found the vertex, the axis of symmetry is the x value of your vertex, because that axis of symmetry, I could simply come in here with my little lines right here, and this is the axis of symmetry right here per lesson 4-1. So the equation is going to be x equals, and it's going to be the x value of your vertex. All right, and then the last question it's going to ask you is to find the x and the y intercepts. Um, it's probably not going to tell you if there's more than one. If there's more than one, there's going to be 2 different blanks for you to fill out. So let's go ahead and do the x-intercepts first. Remember, you're simply finding the x-axis which is marked with the letter x. It's this one right here. There's an x-intercept and there is an x-intercept. So we can go ahead and mark them right there and there. These are our x-intercepts. This one here appears to be at 6, 0, and this one here appears to be at the point -2, 0. So that would be my answer for my x-intercept. There we go. And for my y-intercept, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to find my y-axis. That is my vertical axis right here. And it appears this is where the graph is touching my y-axis. So this would be my y-intercept. It looks like it's at -6. So I'm going to pick 0, -6, because that is the correct ordered pair for the y-intercept. All right, let's move along and take a look at the next question. The next question is going to ask you to find the equation of the quadratic function f, whose graph is shown below. Now, you should see a very similar graph to this, as to the fact that it will contain the vertex, for you, and that it will contain a point. It will contain a point and the vertex. It will not contain the intercepts, because remember, when we write the equation, we're going to use either vertex or intercept form to do so. In this case, we are going to use vertex form. The vertex form is, of course, this. Here's my vertex form. There we go. And of course, remember, it is either positive or negative depending on what your graph looks like. I know that this graph already is going to start with a negative because it is a downward opening graph. So I am going to go ahead and say that it does open down, or it opens downward, you could say. Because of that, I know that A is going to be negative. I don't know what A is going to be, but I know it's going to be negative. Now, remember H and K, these are your vertex. And if you look at your vertex right here, this is H, the X value, and this is K. Your ordered pair is going to be, of course, X for the first one and Y for the second number in the ordered pair because that's always the way it goes. And you're going to plug that in for the X and the Y there. And then we're going to use those numbers to help us find the value of A. Now remember the negative, we don't have to worry about it. We already know that this is a negative graph because we know it is opening downward. Okay, so we don't have to worry about the negative because we know it's opening downward. Let's go ahead and find A. Let's start by substituting in for Y. For Y, I'm going to go to the point and I'm going to plug in the Y value from the ordered pair. So that would be -5. A is going to stay A. So right now, I don't know what A is. X. For X, I'm going to come right here and grab the X value, -4. The formula says minus. Let's go grab H. H is -2. Yes, I'm going to put minus a -2 in there, and I'm going to square it. Plus, and then let's go find K. K is 3. There we go. I've plugged everything in, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve this equation for A. I've got -5. I've got my value of A. Let me change that to orange. There we go. And let's see. -4 minus a -2. Well, minus a minus would become a plus, which would give me a -2. -2 times -2 because of the squaring is +4 plus 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean this up in the next step, but I know that I have to get rid of that +3, so let's go ahead and do that. And then let's go ahead. I'm not liking the way that this is looking. Let's just go ahead and switch those two. There, that looks a lot better. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide by 4, and I end up with A is -2. Now remember, if this graph was pointing upwards, you would ignore the negative and you would just use the 2. But since it is pointing downward, I am going to go ahead and I am going to use the -2. I'm going to come back up. I just need my vertex. My H value is -2, so remember it's going to become a +2 because remember it's always the opposite of what it appears. And then K is going to go in just like K would. There is my equation. Okay, go ahead and make sure that you write that down and that you look at that because this is exactly how you're going to do it on your quiz. All right, the last two questions on your quiz, or three, I think there's actually three of them, are going to ask you to use the quadratic formula to solve for x. I've gone ahead and done two of them. The reason for this is because one or two of the questions is going to be set up so that you can already go ahead and solve. Remember to use the quadratic formula. You do need to be set equal to 0. The reason for the second equation, or the second problem, is if you can notice already, we are not equal to 0. And so if we just go start throwing stuff into the formula, then we are going to go ahead and get this wrong. Before I grab my calculator and I show you all of that, I am going to go ahead and set up my skeleton. I'm going to go ahead and identify A. Remember, A is the number in front of the x squared value, so I'm going to call that 7. And I'm going to identify B. Remember, B is the number in front of the x value. B is 3 in this case. And C. C is the constant. C in this case is -2. I hope I have the colors correct. I have this feeling that I don't, but we're going to go with it. All right, let's go ahead and grab our skeleton. Remember, here is the formula. Let me go ahead and write it down for you for this first one. Oops, 2A, there we go. I'm going to clean that up just a bit. There we go. All right, so I could come back in here and I can say the A's are going to be blue and the B's are going to be pink and the C is going to be purple. What this allows me to do is it allows me to quickly substitute in numbers into my formula. I like to, just as I said in the lesson, set up what I like to call a skeleton. This allows me to go and plug into my calculator correctly the first time, and I don't really have to think. Okay, so I know that the 7 goes in the bottom and right after the 4 because I'm playing that matching color game of where they belong. I know that my B's go here and here because once again, I'm just playing that matching color game. And the last one goes here. Now I can go ahead and I can grab my calculator. Oh, yay, it's there. Let me see if I can do this. Yay. And I'm going to use Desmos to show you guys what it would look like in the calculator. Now remember, you cannot put plus and minus into the calculator at the same time. So I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to do plus and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do minus. In the graphing calculators in class, it's very much similar. And notice that I am using the parentheses. When there are parentheses in the formula, I am using them in the calculator as well. I do highly encourage you to do so as well. There's my first one. It will ask you to round to the nearest hundredth. So remember, hundredth would be 2 numbers after the decimal because 100 is like this. And remember, the decimal goes right here. So we're saying 1, 2. So you're going to go to the second one, and the number right after it is going to tell you if you should round or not. So I've got 0. Make sure you put the 0. 3, and now I have to decide with the 6. Should I leave the 6 a 6 or make the 6 a 7? Who decides? Well, it's the 1 right after the 6, which is the number 1, of course, if you're looking at the decimal over there in the calculator. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave it as 0.36. Please make sure if you do get an answer like this that you do put the 0. Let's go ahead and do it one more time because we must do it with the minus. Okay, there's just no way around it. You're going to have to do it once with plus and then once with minus. Yes, I'm putting everything into my calculator at one time, but I'm being very, very careful about it, and I'm using my formula off to the side. All right, there we go. So once again, there's going to be a blank and it will say and we're going to go ahead and say negative 0.7, and we're going to decide about the 9. The number right after it, which is a 0, says leave the 9 a 9, and these are my 2 answers. Once again, I can't say it enough. Use the 0. If you get a 0 in the calculator, make sure you put 0.79, 0.36, negative 0.79. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this next one. Remember, it's not equal to 0, so what we have to do first is we have to move that 2 over to the other side. Because the 2 is not a like term to the 4 or the 9, because the 9 has an x squared and the 4 has an x, we do not take it away from either 9 or 4. There we go. Now we have them set up. I'm going to go ahead and move my calculator off for just a second, and I'm going to go ahead and say A is 9. Oops. B is 4. Remember, with B and with C, you want to grab the symbol in front of them because that's going to tell you if it's positive or negative. This time, I'm not going to go ahead and write down the formula. I'm just going to start with the skeleton part because we have the formula right over there. And we've moved the calculator off the screen. So there we go. Perfect. All right, and now I can go ahead and I can easily see that the 9 goes in the bottom and right after the 4. that the 4 goes here and here because they're pink, and the purple part goes right there. Now I'm ready. I can grab my calculator. Let me grab my proper color. There we go. And let's put that calculator back up on the screen so that we can see it. Perfect. All right. Remember, with if you use Desmos, you can go ahead and keep continuing, or you can go ahead and hit that little clear all button and everything will disappear. I am using the AB button, which makes a fraction. It's right underneath the wrench. That's how I'm getting the fraction. All right, here we go. And remember, once again, I'm using the plus because I have to do them one at a time, and I'm utilizing my parentheses as much as possible. There we go. There's my first answer. Okay. And it's going to say round to the nearest hundredth. So remember, you're doing two numbers, 2, 9. After the 9 is an 8. Okay, so that means the 9 is going to become a 10, and then that means the 2 has to become a 3. So I would write it like this. I don't believe you will have this situation, but if you do, go ahead and put the 0. Let's go ahead and do it one more time with the minus this time. Remember, you can use the graphing calculator in class. I do highly encourage you to, um, or you could use Desmos if you'd like. Just remember that if you get a decimal like these two or the two previous, that you do use the 0 in the front because I did use it in Schoology. I did not start with just the point. 7, and now I'm going to decide, is it 4 or does the 4 become a 5? After the 4 is a 3. Does it matter that there's another 3 after it and then a 7? It doesn't matter. I'm looking at just the number after that 4. It is a 3, which says let the 4 rest. There is my answer. Good luck, you guys. You'll do great.